above us as the earth is to the sky. I have had the experience of living among some very, very primitive people, and I find that those people have some rules, some regulations, and some laws that are quite like ours. I spent some time in the Southwest Pacific, and I find out that those people don't steal from one another. There is a penalty for stealing, and that penalty happens to be the removal of the hand of the arm that commits this act of taking something that doesn't belong to you. I didn't see many people, in fact, I didn't see anybody going around without both their hands and both their arms. Among primitive people, these people have not been taught about God, but again, God says that He looks into their heart. He doesn't look at the outside, He looks into the heart of an individual to find out whether or not there are flaws there, whether or not that person does things that are against him, whether they have been taught about God Himself or not. There is within that person a knowing of whether or not that the things that they do are wrong. We are told in many places that as far as sin is concerned, there isn't a human being on this earth, from the Pope to the gutter, that has not sinned, that does not habitually sin. And if he says that he is without sin, then God says that he lies. The only perfect one born into this world, and the only one without sin, was Jesus Christ Himself. We are habitually sinning day in and day out, and it requires repentance and confession to cleanse us from this sin. Man has a very, very short memory. No matter what it is that God does for him, no matter how good God is to him, man will habitually sin, and he must atone for what he does. He must ask forgiveness for what he does. He must continually pray. He must continually ask for forgiveness. Otherwise, he's a lost soul.
I've heard so many different answers, different in vernacular and syntax, but pretty much to what I hear is basically the same thing. Even in the experience of Mr. Ewing here, who says that he has had the opportunity to be among primitive individuals who do not have the formality of literature as we do here in a more civil society. But nevertheless, there is that spirit, that existence of a feeling of goodness and kindness and wrongdoing that does exist in all of us. Sin is ultimately when you offend one another, either directly or indirectly, and knowing that it is something that's holding someone back, or it's suppressing someone, or a situation, when you know that it is not allowing anyone or any entity to grow, to develop to the very best of what it actually could be. When you realize that what you are doing and it's causing such a limitation, then you have the ability, the consciousness to say, do I want to see this grow? Do I want to see the best come out of whatever it is? And once realizing what your own abilities are, you simply begin to bring that forth. If it's to ask for forgiveness, you do that. If through your actions you have to turn things around to demonstrate a desire to see the best come about, that is an act of asking for forgiveness in such situations of primitivity. The bottom line is that you know it's not good. The idea of wanting to see evil exist is sin. So to answer the question, what is sin? It is something that is not allowing the goodness to bring or to come forth.
That's the first time that word has popped up in this program. Sin to you is the allowance of evil, or the bringing into existence something that is evil. Is that correct?
Right.
That sums it up in a nutshell.
Yes.
And where does this evil come from?
Like the devil is right here, okay? Because in each one of us, there is good and there is evil. What we nurture and develop surface. We can absorb the evil within ourselves and merge it with the goodness of our personalities. Or we can absorb the goodness with the evil and let the evil emerge. God made us with a shadow of evil. Lucifer himself was an angel tossed out of heaven because of disobedience. We too shall be tossed away from heaven because of disobedience if we let the evil side become the most dominant side of ourselves. But God's plan is that his goodness shall ever shine forth. And not only is it his plan, it's his wish for us and a gift of his grace to help us for the goodness to come forth within us. But for us to sit up here and say the devil is not in us is a lie, because the devil is within everybody, and God is within everybody.
Devil is a manifestation of evil, correct?
All right, the dark side and the light side. And we as Christians have learned more about the light side than we have learned about the dark side. And so sometimes you feel like, you might be deficient in your Christianity if you have not been taught that part of yourself and how you can develop into that which is not good, which you might think is good.
I just wanted to comment on the word itself, primitive, because primitive does not necessarily mean uncivil in any way, because the word itself came as a different terminology from a different people who did not necessarily understand the customs and the traditions of the people whom they found, in the continent of Africa, for instance. And therefore, primitive, as was classified the people by the foreigners, who landed in the continent of Africa. Now, we as a people have had our own standard of life, designed and nurtured by us. And when the foreigners came into the continent, they did not understand God in the same sense in which we did as a different people from them who came, to the continent. Out of the 52 countries that are embraced by the continent of Africa, there are more than 150 different words which all mean simply God and not anything else. And therefore, anybody who comes and will call you primitive, it is because they do not understand your concept of God according to your own revelations of God in you as a people, because we live by custom and tradition, and we owe allegiance to the ancestry which came before us, and being an oral society, therefore the information about the existence of this supreme entity kept on passing from one family to the other until it became common practice. For instance, when there is a birthday or something happening in the household, there will be libation, even if it is home-brewed liquor or the white man's liquor. Something, a little bit, will be poured into the ground to thank the ancestry who came before us to soften the situation, to teach us that there is an entity above us, so that our reference to the ancestry, in fact, takes us much farther back to God, because we have known him by our own terminology. That didn't have to do with the next person's own existence.
That's upon this rock for this segment. Remember, in anything you do, or with any message you receive, first discern the Spirit. How? First pray always. It's effective and it's free. Love God. In the end, only you will be weighed in the balance. Only you can answer the questions we hope we've raised here. We'll see you next time, and let the rock upon which he builds be you. God bless. For music program.